you're new, or you're just starting. To me, it's far from the truth. I feel that when you're first starting, those experiences or insights or revelations are probably the most important. And I don't know. I was teaching this one group a while ago, I think 2 summers ago, and some of the younger people were very humble, and they were like, I don't really know very much, you guys. I'm like the child of the group. And then I was hearing some of the stuff she was experiencing, or a few of them, and they were heavy hitter experiences, and so don't ever underestimate what you gained from the universe just because it's new or fresh for you. It's extremely valuable. um, I think that's my biggest insight. A lot of is another thing is, don't judge your strengths by other people's strengths. So the stuff that you gravitate towards may be completely different from your friends, and don't underestimate those things. Don't just ta them because, oh, I don't, these other people aren't talking about them. No, if they're interest to you, they're important to you. That's another big thing.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Elissa, I see it looks like you're driving, but I don't know if you had something you would like to share.
I am driving. I think she loves me. Okay. Yes, I love my daughter. There's really just no right or wrong way. I think that's the most beautiful aspect of this whole unfolding of your own journey, that it is unique for everyone, and you uncover your gifts. And I guess for me, the most important lesson has been to just remain open for what life brings, and dive in. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not like fully tuned in, so I might not be very expressive right now, but yeah.
No, you're fine.
Do some plant medicine. It'll blow your fucking mind and just burst your heart wide open. Yes, Ivy. That's my take on it.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm glad you said about the being open. I didn't mention this when we were talking earlier, but you're after something that you don't really know what you're after about, and so it's like any preconceived expectations or ideas that you might have of it. You want to try to put those to the side as much as possible and just be open and let it unfurl.
I think I heard you earlier say that you kind of afraid of awareness, and I definitely have felt that way before. I think a way that for me, a way that I dive deep into my spiritual self is from awareness, and from whenever I would feel something, having the courage to follow it and just kind of follow where that feeling stems from, and you can get deeper and deeper as you practice. I think that it's scary, but I don't think there's any need to be afraid, because what's inside of you is you, and the more that you can connect with yourself, the more you can just be more connected to the earth around you, and then the earth around you and the universe will speak to you more, and the more that you clear your channels, the more energy can come in through you. So, and then once you start feeling that, then you'll know that scary feeling of diving deeper is worth it.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, I'd say for me, when I first started, it was inconsistent. I was not that consistent with it. So I think the main thing is being consistent, but also not being hard on yourself. And Brianna said, don't judge yourself. I judged myself a lot when I first started. That's just like how my mind was. I'm very critical of myself, so I'd be like, oh, am I doing this right? Am I seeing what other people are seeing? Am I thinking what other people are thinking? Like, you know, just worried about if it's right or not. And like, there really isn't like a right. It's just for you to like step away from everything, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, like whatever, and just force yourself to sit and just like be there and just like you know what I mean, like release. And then like when you release, for me, when I release like that, it also helps me ground down, because I feel like I'm not very grounded like as a person. So then like it helps me ground down. And like I told you the other day, when I don't meditate, I have like really weird like days where I feel really off, and like yeah. And so just be easy on yourself, but also at the same time be like disciplined. So not hard on yourself, but disciplined. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank y'all for sharing. You know, as a group, it's our responsibility to help each other in our growth and in our pursuit, and in sharing, you know, your experiences, or, you know, as we go along, maybe your faults or your failures, or whatever it is that we talk about in group. You know, it really helps everybody, because all of us, while we're all on our own journey, we all typically face some of the same challenges and pitfalls. And so while you may think something is insignificant to share as well, it's important to realize that to somebody else it may be absolutely groundbreaking. And maybe the reason you're feeling some strange compulsion to share something is that person needs to hear it. So I would say, you know, to everyone that's here, you know, on our own journey, in our own growth, and amongst other people that you come across that find some interest or are seeking in some way, that you know, trust in yourself to open up and share for a little bit of your time to help somebody else on their path. You know, you learn along the way. And I know I've said that before as well, that when you share, you learn so much faster about what it is you know, or what you think you know, or what you've experienced, or how you reflect in yourself. So it's as much for them as it is for you. And I always say that about myself as well. You know, this is as much for me as it is hopefully for you guys, that it's an opportunity to discuss ideas, but it's also important for you to know that, you know, just because I'm telling you something, it doesn't mean that that's the bottom line truth, or that it is the truth, or that you don't question it. You know, I know when we spoke, I asked you to try and make a commitment to yourself for 30 days to implement it. And, you know, again, that's for you to be the scientist and investigate if there's any merit to it. It's not for me to say necessarily like, well, you know, you just don't get it, or whatever. It's a matter of, you know, you hear it, and if it resonates with you, then apply it and see what type of results you get, and let that be what speaks for, you know, your own personal pursuit. That we're all in this together, but ultimately we're all in this alone, and that, you know, we all die alone. And so basically at the end, it's really you and your consciousness that you're left with to navigate beyond. And even in this life, it's still your singular life, that you are here to navigate this on your own, for your own growth and pursuit and development, any individual. So yeah, I mean, you know, I didn't say that at the beginning either, but I definitely like to make it aware that, you know, I don't always know what I'm talking about. I'm sharing because these are things that I found to be true, but it doesn't mean that, you know, I want the questioning, I want the you know, if it doesn't sound right, then ask, you know, because that's important too. That a lot of times when we're talking, you know, we use analogies or, you know, we say things that have different meanings, but not only that, you have a perception that infers what I'm saying or what she's saying or what she's saying. And there is that interpretation, which can be really completely way off. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. You know, it's like, I know for a fact that I've had classes with y'all where, like, I know you and you have both told me things that have been like, you know, when you said this in class and it was like this, that, and the other, and I was just like, yeah, totally. And it was just like, I really didn't remember talking about it, but, you know, that was how it was perceived. And it was applied in that way, and they managed to find a benefit out of it. So that's good, but you also don't want to be going down a rabbit hole of that's a dead end. And so it's important to ask questions and ask for clarification if it's not making sense, because there's a lot of terminology that we kind of use that it is, we say things that mean things that don't mean what we're saying a lot of times. So like when earlier when I was talking about vibrations or frequency or holding a tone, it's like I'm using those words, but
they don't mean what I think.
they don't, right, they're not like a direct definition interpretation. So those are some things to keep in mind. Yeah, anything to add on to it? Anything else as we've been talking? Any thoughts?
Oh, no, I really appreciate that you said, you know, what was it? You know, this journey is your own, because it really is. In my years of kind of studying spiritual things, there are people I've leaned into and trusted their judgments, and some of the advice was excellent, and some of the advice I wish I would have just listened to my deeper instinct. So you know, every choice you make it your own. Of course.
Yeah, thanks for that addition. Appreciate that. So yeah, I wasn't sure, you know, if y'all had anything in mind that you wanted to get into, or you, Brianna, or Yalitza, if y'all had anything in particular that y'all had been thinking about that you might want to dive into. You know, it's pretty much open forum. Or if you have any questions that you thought of since we were talking earlier, and things that you had maybe, I know we were outside and stuff, and maybe some things popped into your head that was like, oh, this is interesting, or there's something you'd like to dive into a little bit deeper that we were talking about.
I think I was more hesitant before the conversation and more hesitant about awareness and like digging in. But now I'm like, okay, excited. So okay, let's do it.
What is your name again?
I'm Allie.
Allie. Okay.
Sorry if I didn't make that loud.
You're good.
You're fine. Yeah, so you know, since she's just starting, I'm going to tailor this to maybe some more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think about where we left off in our conversation, but you know, I didn't really get to fully finish up the meditation process that we do. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap that up, and then maybe we'll get into some other things. So when we last stopped, I'll kind of recap a little bit. We were talking about the heart. So you're touching the heart chakra, you're bringing your attention there, you're smiling. We kind of went over all that. Yeah. And then the next is the mind. And again, you're touching about the middle of your forehead, but really you're wanting to visualize about an inch or two through your skull, where you would envision your pineal gland. And again, your intention is known that as you're breathing in this prana energy. And it's almost like you're feeling like you have a mouth here, or you have a mouth here. And so you're superimposing your own mouth that would be breathing in, and you're placing it here to breathe in that prana energy. So again, it's the same thing here. And if your arm gets tired, just set it down, switch arms. You know, the idea is that you're wanting to build a connection with that point. So as you develop, you know, if you touch somewhere, you're bringing your attention there. When you remove the touch, you can still hold your awareness there, but it becomes more difficult. And then eventually sometimes you lose it. So you can just stay and come back, and stay and come back. And when you're sitting, you know, you want to sit with your palms hand in hand like this, kind of by your lower chakra, and then you know, you'll move your hands as we go through the chakra points. But this is kind of like pooling your energy, meaning like your energy is like creating like a reservoir here. And then as you're going up, your energy also is flowing up through your chakra points and filling all the other points up. And after the meditation, it's important to also take like some time to adjust and feel how you're feeling, versus just you know, stopping it and then immediately going on Facebook or going on, you know, whatever your phone is calling you to do. And so I kind of build that into the playlist that I make, which I didn't mention, but we use music in our particular meditation practice. And the reason we use music is it again helps your mental chatter kind of calm down and give it something to focus on while your higher consciousness is focusing on your chakra points. And it also, again, trains you to find that center and that focus when something distracting is going on. In other words, you have this music playing and you're being asked to focus on this chakra point. So not only are you kind of battling your thoughts, but you know, the music can be a distraction in its own right. However, it can also take you places if you allow it. And the same could be said for sitting in a mall and listening to the people walking and talking and whatever. That can feel like a very big distraction, like it's a lot of noise, or you can almost use it as music and ride the wave and not let it be a distraction. So it's giving you a training so that, you know, if you're in school or you're at work or you're at the mall or at a park or wherever you are, that you are capable of finding that stillness and that focus no matter what environment you're in. You'll know how to handle the different, you know, shouting kid all of a sudden, or, you know, you'll remain focused. Or at least you'll do a better job at it.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a work in progress, and you still have to apply everything. So yeah, so that's, you know, the playlists that I make, they're typically 5 tracks, but you know, you can make your own playlists. You can use whoever's playlists you like, or you can do no music as well. It's not like mandatory that you have to use music. In fact, doing it in silence can also be really beneficial. But usually at the beginning, it can be the more difficult approach to a meditation. Because even just sitting and listening to music sometimes it's like, you know, I feel like I need to be doing something. I feel like I need to be cleaning, or I need to be active, or whatever it is that my body is telling me I need to do. And, you know, the body will tell you that you need to get up, that you need to move, that you're wasting your time, that you're, this is boring, this isn't working for me, this is that. And, you know, you almost want to set your intention at the beginning of the practice, which is like, okay, I'm setting aside this time. No matter what my mind is telling me during this time, I've dedicated myself for this 20 minutes, for this 30 minutes, for this 5 minutes, whatever it is. But you want to let that be your anchor for your meditation, and that no matter what your mind is saying, no matter how many distractions come up, no matter how many things you think about, oh, I need to text this person, I need to text that person, I need to do the laundry, I need to work on my taxes, I need to, you know, do whatever the hell else my mind is all of a sudden thinking I need to do, is to say that you have your anchor in that you've set aside this time and you recognize that this is your you time. This is your time to just be you, to just feel you for this 30 minutes of your day. It's like, how much are you worth to yourself? And that's something that you have to keep in mind as you progress through the next week and the next month, and however long you decide to apply yourself, is that it's about you. Like I can tell you all kinds of things. And it probably sound great, and none of it matters unless it works for you, unless you apply it and you get something out of it. It's kind of like mental gymnastics, I call it, when I'm doing sometimes, because I tend to overanalyze things, and I'm like, just taking it to the just absolute nth degree, and a lot of times it's really unnecessary. And also, it doesn't do anything necessarily, again, if I'm not building an experience from that. So it's one thing to intellectually think something, and then it's another to sit and reflect on it and dive into even an idea, which you could say is another type of meditation. So the primary one that we do is the prana building meditation, because that's going to give you the energy to be able to approach the other things that you may want to approach. Like if you want to dive into other psychological or otherworldly kind of ideas, that's the kind of energy that will fuel your conscious mind to be able to go to those kinds of places and experience what those thoughts can unfurl when you dive in with your intention and let it unfurl. Those, again, there's no real bad meditation. It's just you have to have your foundation built, and so that's why we do this prana building meditation, because this is really feeding your minds. So you have these body center minds, like we kind of talked about earlier. You're like, your gut has a consciousness, your chest has a consciousness, your mind has a consciousness, and you are syncing them all up and building them strong. You're building your relationship with those minds, with your soul. This is the first time that you're probably thinking about a soul, and you may not have even put that together necessarily. That's kind of what we're talking about, is we're talking about building your soul. That a soul is your consciousness in the end. But if you spend your whole life believing you're the body, then you die when you're the body, because you have no relation to your consciousness. You have no relation to the true isness of who you are. And that is what you're doing unwittingly, unknowingly, by doing this. You're really building a soul. You're building your connection to it so that it can move beyond your body. And you don't have to wait till you die to move beyond your body. It's also these other ways of thinking, these other places that you bring yourself to that have their own world, in a sense. They take on their own life. And then you're in it and you're experiencing it, but you're not experiencing it as a body, you're experiencing it as a consciousness. And like we talked about earlier as well, the mind doesn't necessarily fully differentiate between what you're thinking as an experience and what you're feeling as an experience. Like we used anger as an example earlier, or frustration, or being mad at somebody. That when you're thinking on that, your body is physiologically responding as if that's the active reality. And you're utilizing that to your advantage. So now you're again taking that same physiological response, but now you're setting it with an intention to dive into some idea, or to connect with yourself in a deeper way, or to analyze why you're doing something, or why you reacted a certain way, or why you have an experience at all, or why you feel how you feel. So there's just a numerous number of applications and ways that this practice gives you the foundation to approach many other things. Any thoughts, you guys?
Nope, you're doing good.
Yeah, you're doing great. But when he says like build the foundation, like that's so like legit. Yeah, like a lot of people would think that they can just sit down and meditate a couple of times and then it'll like work and it'll be a solution for them. Yeah, like for the rest, like they're like it's like a magical like answer that will make everything like right and like okay, but it's like not. It's like the act of like doing it every single day, and like the more that you do it, the more energy that you build every single day in that practice, and it like almost like follows you throughout the day. And it's like for me, it's like a thread. Like if I do consistent meditation, you know, it's like a thread from each day to the next day, and it like follows and it gets like looser or tighter, or like, you know, or maybe sometimes it breaks, but then I just like tie a knot back again, and then it like continues. So it's never just like you can do it do it one day. If you can only do it one day that week, that's cool. Don't be hard on yourself. Try again next week for 2 days, you know. And like that's like how I started, you know, like when Claire like first brought me to it, like she would literally sit down with me and like we just meditate, and like she'd be doing her thing and I would just be like, you know, for a while. But then one day it just like clicked, you know, and then I was like, whoa, like yeah. And
You have your unique practice.
yeah, it's very like unique, and I like it's never the same. It's similar like in certain ways, but like it's never the same. And like I remember like when I first started like I will always remember this for like the rest of my life, but when I first started meditating consistently, this was last summer, and like that's when I first really started getting into it. But then I'd been meditating for 2 years before that, so it took me a really long time to even get here. But like one of the best like meditations I've ever had was like I was meditating with you, like in Emily, and it was like right before like my Black Swan audition, and like for a while I had cords attached to me, and they were like dark like branches like stuck to like my skin, like in my skin, like the roots were in my skin, and I would see that every time, and like I would cut it, like he'll teach you about cutting cords, and I would cut it, you know, and actually do it like the cutting, and then eventually I did that for like months, and then one day I was just sitting down and literally I saw myself like with greenery like coming out of me, like vines and flowers, and I was just like in my meditation, like whoa, like I hopped in and like I expected it to be like branches stuck to me, but then it was a forest like in around me, and I was like shook because I was just like whoa. I was like, this is not what I expected to see. It's like I opened the door and I was like, oh, back to my everyday branch cutting, and then there's no branches to be cut. Yeah, and like that was like yeah, but that was like amazing, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm rebirthing. And then like, you know, and then I was on a high a little bit, and then went back, you know, into cycles and stuff, and then I had branches again. But then it just comes back, and it comes back again in different ways. Like I've never had one like that again, but I've had other ones that are like similar or like in a whole different way. Like I don't think that I'll ever have one that's exactly like that again. Yeah.
And even you're talking about the thread, which is really cool imagery, and you're doing like this with your hands. And I was just talking about with Chris the other day about he was like drawing out like because I was talking about how like, you know, you like be in a really good spiritual place, be meditating, doing really well. And I was talking about how you always say even if you like aren't doing it, you don't start from like the beginning. It's not like this, you start at the beginning and then you do it again. Like you start where you left off, you know. And he was just saying that it's more instead of it like this and you like loop around, it's more like waves, like up and down. So you're always moving forward, you know. So it's like, but just sometimes you kind of fall off a little bit, but then you just get back up in the same place that you were, and then you just, or even further, because like in the valleys you learn as well and you grow as well, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just all, yeah, it's the waves
For sure. Yeah.
Cool.
No, and I always like when I first started, I was like, I fell off my practice, like all my work is like a waste. Like
I had those thoughts
and
too
like
at first,
I've been there for her thoughts of it too. Like,
Mhm.
oh, it's just a waste. I like, you know, like I did all this stuff. Now I'm disappointed in myself. But like, no, like you made it there in the first place, and that's already hard enough. Like most people don't even get that time or space to do that or want to do it, and they get there. Or like, and then we're able to get there and then notice that we're down and then try to get back up again. So
Yeah, because that's awareness.
yeah, that is awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
I'll listen to
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on what she was saying about about the waves, is that That really is kind of a metaphor for everything in life that you're looking to progress at. I mean, it seems like no matter what your goal is, you're always going to be hit with pitfalls. Like you're always going to be hit with something in life that knocks you down. And what's the most important is how you approach or recover or respond to that situation. What are you going to make of it? And the other reason that a meditation practice is so important to integrate daily, no matter what, meaning it doesn't matter if you feel like crap, if you feel like it's going to be a terrible meditation, if you feel like it's going to be a great meditation, if you feel like it's going to be a blasé meditation, like you want to really commit to yourself that you're doing it every single day, no matter what, because what happens is that when you make that commitment and follow through, you're able to withstand those lows much better and you're able to recover from them much quicker because your energy is in such a place that you kind of bounce off those negative things better, or you seem to approach them with a different outlook, which gives you an edge over them. In other words, it's like you have this capability to recreate the drama or the negative aspect into something positive for yourself. And again, it's not to say that's always going to happen, and it's not to say that it's easy, but what it is it gives you that place of refuge. In other words,
That's important to me.
yeah, that no matter what is happening in your life, that you can stop no matter where you are and you can dial it in.
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
Super, super important to me. Yeah. Like I would think like the grounding purpose behind this, and I think you would say that for me too, from what I've told you like in the past week is like that. Like being able to dig into like and just find refuge and like sanctuary within that. And just know that I can do that at any point because like I've told you, the stress and anxiety of like things around me and not feeling like I can not escape. It's not that I want to escape the anxieties because I think that they're important and everything's learning and you can learn from everything, but it is important that I can like find some peace for a second.
Yeah. And that reminds me, speaking of sanctuary, like it reminds me of like when we used to talk about like mind palaces.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't talk about it that often anymore, but when I first joined, like it was like a pretty like hot topic.
I usually go on tangents of things for classes at a time.
Yeah. And like, and it cycles through, yeah. But Mind Palace, yeah, that was, I didn't even know about like Mind Palace, what it was before. Like I just thought, like I would have, when I first started meditating, I would like have so many visuals like of a dolphin and like a forest and like me looking in this like mirror, or not in a mirror, in like water, and I could see myself, and then I fall through the well in the water, and that was, and then like I told you that recently, and he was like, well, it's a common thing that people can like look at themselves in their meditations, and like would you say like you can, like that's the beginning of like, you don't remember? Dang, okay. Damn, okay.
Well, say a lot of things. Yeah, I kind of remember.
Yeah, but I think that would be really helpful for you because, like, you know, a sanctuary, like, that's like super. I think that's a really like easy way to like if you can't picture anything or you can't necessarily connect with anything while you're meditating, just like visualize a safe like space that's completely of your design, like whatever, like the grandest thing that you think of for yourself, and like that's what I started with, and now I'm like, you know, other things like I don't really do that often anymore, but like sometimes it'll come up and stuff, but like I'm such a visual person, so that helps me
too.
Yeah. And then now
visualize vividly. So.
Yeah. And like now I don't even have like visuals. I usually am just like sitting and I feel myself in like the universe. Like that's what I literally like feel like. And I'm like, well, I used to see all these colors and now I see black or like all white. Yeah, and it's cool. It's like soothing. It's not like evil or anything. Yeah.
One thing in regards to like a mind palace or is you can even just feel yourself as an empowered version of yourself. So it's like in your mind, you know, you kind of feel we talked about this a little bit last week, but like just this empowered being that you are and kind of overlay that onto you now. That's a similar kind of a practice as like the mind palace in a sense, but mind palace is kind of putting you in a place like that you feel empowered as well. So it's a little bit of both and for the best effect, but that's stuff we'll get into later. You know, like I say, it's sometimes I get ahead of myself as well because I'm always excited to like, you know, share with somebody new. And, you know, try not to feel overwhelmed. I don't think you are, but like.
I feel very chilled right now. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm good.
Well, you know, sometimes there's a lot of information being kind of thrown at you. And I would say that really the most important thing is to keep it slow, keep it simple. And be patient. Yeah, that you know, really the keys are the breath, you know, focusing on the touch, and you know, dismissing your mind chatter, coming back to that, and you know, beyond that, everything will really grow from that. And it's like as long as you're like keeping it real simple, that's where you're going to find the biggest kind of keys and the biggest growth. Again, we tend to move fast, and you know, when you're sitting and feeling this chakra point, you know, after 30 seconds to a minute, you're going to get kind of bored, and it's like, you know, you just come back to it. It's all there is. It's just, and you're going to be like, is there something more? Should I be, you know, feeling this or doing this? Or and it's like, no, just come back to it and just feel it and focus on the feeling. And as things crop up in your mind, you return back to your focus.
And I feel good. That's right. Like I feel good about that part because like what I was telling you earlier, like when you were like describing it, the heart and like you did the motion that I've done my entire life that I didn't even realize like I was like centering myself. Like I didn't even realize that I've already brought breath there my entire life, and it was my instinct to do that was to, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, my heart's beating fast, let's burn my hand. It's never like felt like that. It's always felt like, okay, this is where my center is. This is where I can feel my energy. This is where I can feel my like, and it's like what I tell the girls in Danny. I'm like, breathe in life, and like have them breathe that in and hold their hearts, especially like when they're upset with each other. And I'm like, you just need to breathe in some life, and like so you can speak some life. Like let's work on that and like stuff like that. That I didn't even realize was like practice. And so I'm like excited about that. I'm excited about learning more outside of just this and stuff like that because like to me that's always been just instinctual. And I'm excited to like hone other instincts, if that makes sense. Like things that are instinctual, but that I didn't realize it, and then I get to like, oh, that just feels natural. Like that just feels like something I would have done all along. So I'm excited.
Yeah, you definitely have the right attitude about it. Just try to keep, like I said before, your expectations at the door, so to speak. That you know, and that goes for y'all as well, again, to check in with yourself in your practice and myself as well, because it's difficult at the beginning and as you go along. Like in both sides, there's kind of these expectations, and sometimes it's maybe more so for somebody that's been doing it a long time than somebody that's new. It's like if you're new, you have expectations because of movies, TV, friends, you know, whatever. But as you progress and you have experiences like what Adelie was talking about with like the chords and then feeling like, you know, this super greenery and flowery, there's almost this like yearn to have that same experience again. And it doesn't necessarily work like that. You know, it does and it doesn't. There's always that duality, and that like, you know, for her as an example in that she was talking about, I'm sure as you were talking about it, you could feel it, right? Like it wasn't just you explaining what happened to you. It's kind of like you're recreating the emotional experience that you had. Even as you were talking, you were lighting up, and you know, it was a whole vibe that you're putting out. And so you can recreate those experiences and then hold them as a tone, as a vibration in your kind of being, and then operate from there. But it's never necessarily going to be the exact same. So the expectation holds you back in other ways, because it's also like you telling the universe that, well, you know what you need, or you know what's good for you, and you know what experience you should be having. And just doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's you're after something more, and that's another just difficult part of this. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. That's always something to contend with, and always something you kind of want to check yourself at the beginning, and almost like mentally, verbally say like, I'm putting my expectations at the door, or have no expectations. I'm letting go of my expectations. Whatever will unfurl. And you also want to try not to judge or tag or define what's occurring to you when you're in the moment. You may have things happen where you're seeing things or you're feeling things, and immediately the brain wants to be like, "Ooh, what's that? Ooh, is some light flashing? Am I seeing this? Am I making it up?" Or like, "Oh, I'm feeling good," or "I'm like, what is that? What?" And we want to like just pin it down, and that's the quickest way to stop any experience. You want to try to allow it to unfurl. It's really like this flower blooming within you, and the flower blooms on its own accord. It blooms just as it happens, and so do you in a way, in your own unfolding. That you can't force it to open, you can't force it to bloom, and it's almost like watching water boil. The more you stare at it, the longer it takes to boil, kind of thing. And so it's about allowing the experience to happen and observing without trying to encapsulate it. And I think the way that I like to the feeling that it makes for me is if you've ever daydreamed in like school before. Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
when I don't know if you've ever had the experience where you're daydreaming and then it seems like all of a sudden like a loud noise comes and like snaps you out of it, right? Or something happens and you kind of jolt it out. I don't know if you've ever had where you're able to kind of hold it longer, like maybe you've been in a daydream and then you start noticing that you're coming out of it and you're like, oh, I just want to stay in there a little bit longer. And it's like almost you kind of slip back in. Have you ever kind of done that?
Oh, yeah.
All the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So meditation is a lot like that. That's kind of the mind state that you want to be in when things are occurring, or even when things are not occurring. It's really just like you're there, you're observing, you're letting yourself be in that moment. You're letting the moment happen without trying to control it. That's like a daydream. It's like it's unfurling as it unfurls. And the second that you're like paying attention to it almost too much, it starts to dwindle. It's like it's almost like a dream. It's like if you start waking up in a dream and you try to control your dream, if you've ever had an experience like that, the harder you control it, the faster you wake up. So meditation is kind of similar in that regard, in the type of mind space that you're kind of looking to achieve. It's almost that
sense.
like that coasting.
Yeah,
feeling.
I can kind of visualize that like being similar. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just like so excited.
Yeah. Do y'all have anything you would like to share or add on?
Has Allie, right? Have you meditated yet, or?
Kind of. Not the way you're describing, or that it's been described. I think I have before, but more in a way to push out anxiety or just to focus on breath. So less in a way to focus in different places. I mean, the thing I was talking about when I like focused on my heart and stuff like that was just incidental. Like that wasn't me trying to meditate. But I have tried to meditate in ways of just like reducing anxiety and like focusing on like just in and out, and like doing that for like, I've done that I think max probably 20 minutes, like something like that. But it's never been like focusing on my.
That's pretty cool. You did say something about like you kind of like it's awakening your instinct, and I really like that's for me how it is still like throughout the whole journey. So I thought that was cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah, it feels like working a muscle. Like
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like I'm like, yeah. Like Okay, that makes sense. I've
is
worked
so
that
cool.
muscle before without realizing. Yeah. So excited. That's why I keep getting more pumped. So wait, I know what you're talking about. This is great.
Right on.
Yeah, it's really nice to like, I don't know, before I feel like if I never had Claire, it probably would have like taken me longer like to understand like what my thoughts were like for, you know, like, and it's nice to have like a group of people because then you can say stuff and like it's such a judge-free zone here, like you can say like whatever and then like they'll resonate with you or they'll be like, okay, well like, you know, work it out and be like asking you questions and then try to like make sense of it and in a way that's like helpful to you. So never feel like, because I used to be like, I'm crazy, like I'm weird, like I'm emotional.
Told you that maybe
I'm not
80 times
normal.
in the
Yeah,
past
you know.
week. Yeah.
But like then
Yeah.
and you come here and you say like, you know, what's on your mind and stuff, and usually like 9 times out of the 10, everyone in meditation group is going through the same thing. Like it's crazy, and I'm just like, or like something in that sense, or like I'll be feeling like antisocial one like day on meditation group, and I won't say as much, but then someone will say something, and I'm like, that's what I'm going through, and that's how I'm feeling, and then I just let it ride out, and I listen instead of like participating as much because that's what I need that week, you know. Yeah.
Melissa, did you have something to share? I saw you popped on.
Is she talking?
I don't think so. You're muted if you're talking.
Yeah, I've been listening while driving.
Yeah.
And I think as women, I know we have this natural ability of being guided by our intuition, and in this societal lifestyle it's very easy to kind of get wrapped up in the doings and lose touch of that. And in meditation, I know in the beginning I would have to prioritize at that time and work through that initial monkey mind and building awareness and being present and allowing the thoughts to drift and detaching more and more from them, or getting sucked into the emotional state of the thoughts that allow greater space for presence and less reactivity, obviously. And now my body actually requires it. So it's almost like that flip switched, and that is my way of processing. And a simple example of that is yesterday I finished my clients early from the salon, so I was going to go on about my day and pick up some products, blah blah blah. And all of a sudden my body's just like feeling really heavy, almost like I want to take a nap, but there was still a lot of like thoughts or just energy running through me. And I literally pulled into a parking lot where I was going to buy product, but instead I parked in a back row and I put my seat down, and for like 15-20 minutes I just like closed my eyes and put something soft on and completely drifted. And it was just this form of like processing that my body needed. So it was telling me like, okay, time to like integrate these, because there was an intense weekend, but it was like my body knowing when it's time to slow down and integrate pieces that have like taken action, and taking the time aside to allow that experience to integrate more. And also it was like a dream state while the messages were fully clicking from the previous experiences that I hadn't taken the time to fully process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And just to piggyback on that a little bit, you know, not too much, but is that you can do it anywhere. And like she was talking about, like her body said, this, you know, I need this right now. You know, if you're getting that feeling, you know, it doesn't have to be like this perfect, peaceful place. Like it can be a closet, it can be a bathroom, if that's what's required at that time. And what you'll find too is that when you meditate in different places, you end up having different experiences because the energies are different no matter where you go. So it's like, it's kind of different if you're in a park in nature under a tree versus maybe here, upstairs, downstairs, wherever. All the places around here will feel different. And so, you know, it's kind of fun to experiment with that as well and see what works for you and what resonates with you, and not be afraid to try that out. You know, if you do go in public, what I find works for me that puts me at a little bit more ease is wearing sunglasses and putting headphones in, because then it's like, all right, if people, even if people see you on a park bench, you got your sunglasses on, so like they don't know what you're doing. Like, you know?
I love it. Had a face mask on top of it. We're really gonna have to
Incognito for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so like this, with kind of your thumbs touching, yeah. But, you know, of course, like I said, you're gonna have your hands like this to start, and then we'll go to the lower, and you'll touch it. Say if your hand gets tired, then you come back here, the heart, and then the mind. And then the last track we use just for reflection and, you know, kind of letting yourself drift a little bit deeper, or feel a little bit deeper, or unfurl in the experience. But it's not mandatory to have that last track. It's just, like I say, that's kind of how I like to build my playlist, because I have a tendency to, if I don't do that, then I'll get up right away and try and reintegrate back into life. And I know I need to take that little bit of extra time, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes after, just to allow myself to really feel the feelings that I've created, or feel the environment or the peace that I've created for myself. But again, there's no bad meditation. So it's like, if all you can do in the middle of your day or at the end of your day, for whatever reason, is that you can do 5 minutes, then do the 5 minutes. But I will say that you're going to get the best results if you do 20 to 30 minutes a day, preferably twice a day, but at least once a day. That's especially at the beginning, like that's where you're going to see like the best kind of results and the best effect from it. If you're only doing 5 minutes, you're probably going to get, you're going to get 5 minute results, which is still good. It's not, like she said, it's not to be so judgmental or hard on yourself. I would say, even more so, at least if you're committing to yourself that you're going to do it for the 30 days, don't let yourself go lower than 5 minutes. At least set a bar for yourself. That's like, this is my bracket that I feel like I can't justify out of. It's like sometimes even with I come back to chores a lot because I struggle with doing them a lot of times, and sometimes it's like, okay, can I pick my clothes off the floor, versus doing all the laundry. It's like, all right, I've shamed myself into a low enough bar that it's like I can't, in good conscience, feel like I can't do this thing, and so I think like say if 5 minutes is all you can do in a day, then do it. But definitely try to go, and I'll give you a few playlists as well. I have a bunch on Spotify, and I'm sure they have some they've made too.
I got something I wanted to share. I know this is like the beginning of meditation. So I guess I'll just tell you, like, my recent experiences, I've been kind of really strict and kind of doing mostly like a lone wolf with myself. And I've been meditating twice a day. And the last, I think, 2 days, I kind of told myself to like let my guard down. And just because I'm like, okay, no human is what's it called? We're all connected and we all are in this economy. We can't just, isolate ourselves in a cave, at least, whenever I'm living in a city, right? So, but what was going on was, like, today I've been kind of dropping my guard a little bit and like all these distractions came out from nowhere. Like I was gonna like, okay, I need to meditate, and then randomly I get a message from someone I haven't spoken to in maybe like 10 years. I'm like, oh, that's surprising. And then I was gonna go do something else, and then the doorbell rings, and then just get back to what I was doing, and then my sister comes in telling me, hey, you want to do this or something. So like whenever you pursue these kind of less popular ideas, don't be surprised if you have like these interactions that come out of the blue and try to like deter you from your goal. To me, I found it humorous because it's but like it kind of sucked at the same time. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
I'm doing it with a group. That's
Yeah.
the biggest part. Like I like that makes me feel better.
It's definitely helpful versus like,
Just
trying
being like
to,
up there and just being like,
well, yeah, and you can go through a lot of like videos and or schools and or books and or whatever, and like, sometimes you just don't know whether it's going to work or not. And even this probably don't necessarily know whether it's going to work for you or not, but at least you have other people that are like, hey, yeah, it's worked for me.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier, because most people that are in a spiritual pursuit are in it solitary. Most of the time people don't want to share it with their friends, or they don't want to talk about it with their family. They're embarrassed about it, or whatever else. It's like spiritually being in the closet, so to speak, that everyone kind of comes out in their own time. And whatever feels right to you is what feels right to you. So it's, like I say, at least we have each other that we can talk to, or bounce ideas around with, or variety of experiences,
Right.
and practices and tried things or different knowledge. So it's helpful.
It's very connected.
Yeah, for sure.
Like already.
Yeah.
I'm just excited.
Cool. So we're like 9:30. So was there anything else on anybody's mind that would like to share? Anything?
Nope, I think Yulissa just.
Yeah, she said, thanks everyone. Bye. Love connecting.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Oh, good night.
Good night, y'all. I'll let y'all go.
Okay.
Okay,
Good night. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate all of it. Bye.
So cute. I never get tired of when we work